Are we live? I think we are live. Hello, good people of the internet. Welcome to the Unlearning Playground, one final time in 2024. And this is also, crazily enough, the first time I'm actually doing a YouTube live. This is the last video I'm uploading in 2024, and it's crazy that it's supposed to be a live video. But this is something I actually want to do going forward a lot more. By the way, if you are new here, this is Chetan Naran. Welcome to the Unlearning Playground. I upload regular stuff around spiritual growth and self improvement for the modern human being in 2025. Now, the topic that I wanted to talk about today, I, it's that time of the year, where we are right at the brink of the new year. There are New Year resolutions videos floating all over the internet now. There are so many advices all over the place around New Year's, and I wanted to, let's say, drop my hat into the game too. And what I wanted to talk about was how you can actually go about making this new year the best year of your life. Now, this is a question I've been sitting with for quite a number of days now. And honestly, I feel personally there is no silver bullet to it. You cannot really guarantee that the next year coming forward will be the best year of your life so far. But still, when I was meditating on it, when I was thinking deeply about it, I was able to come up with four pillars that I would want to share with my audience, which, if implemented properly, can actually make the next year, can actually help you not guarantee, but at least put your best foot forward into making the next year the best year of your life. Now, when I talk about these four pillars, actually, these four pillars are also the cornerstones of my New Year's resolutions course, which I've just launched with the help of my good friend and fellow philosopher Rocco Jarman. The course is called New Year's Resolutions A Better Way. It is live. You can find it all over my social media. You can find it on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram, via my newsletter, via my website. Go on to www.chetanarang.org. The courses section right at the very top navigation bar will take you to that course right now. It's actually a mini course. It has 5 modules. It is 75 minutes overall. And I feel that if you implement the philosophies and the tools and practices that I talk about in that course, you are well on your way to actually enabling yourself to make this year the best year of your life. Now, let's talk about the four pillars that I wanted to talk about in this video. The first one that I'd come up with was dedicated time. Now, I think we are so busy in this modern day and age in 2024, right on the brink of 2025. A lot of us lead so busy lives that whatever you're doing, you keep doing just that. And if you do not allocate dedicated time to actually sit back and review your goals, to sit back and review what it is that you are busy doing, you may as well just keep doing whatever it is you're doing. And there is a certain downside to actually never spending dedicated time to audit everything that you've been doing so far. You remember that famous movie Fight Club? I love that movie. And there was one section in that movie where either one of those two guys, Edward Norton or Brad Pitt, says something to the tune of, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. Now, that's one of the main things that I want you to take with yourself when you're actually designing your goals. Are you really designing your own goals? Are you really trying to pursue goals that are your authentic goals? Or are they goals which are borrowed goals from your parents, your teachers, your friends, your peers, your office workers, etc., etc.? You catch the drift. You may not just be doing things to make people like you, but you still could be pursuing a lot of things that are not really your own goals. And I feel it is just a better way of going about your life to pursue goals that resonate deeply with you, not with other people in your life. Now, whenever this is said to someone, I feel a very common response. If you are here on my channel, I feel you're already well on your way towards a self improvement or a spiritual growth journey. So you might already know this. You might already know that yes, people are conditioned by their past, by their parents, by their teachers, by their surroundings. And therefore, yes, I know this. What's new? There's nothing new in this. But there's another quote that resonates with me very deeply here. It was from Dostoevsky. He said, it takes something more than intelligence to act intelligently. And that is the distinction. Even though this is something not new for you, you may not be acting on it. And that is it. To act on the intelligence, to act on the knowledge that you've already gathered is actually wisdom. And that is what it takes to actually act intelligently. So you may already know that you're conditioned, but if you're not spending dedicated time to review your goals, if you're not spending dedicated time to review your life, even, you might as well be a puppet to forces that you do not really want to be a puppet of. All of us want autonomy in our life. All of us want to have free will in our life. Now, we cannot have free will to the extent of being a complete independent agent in the world because we do not exist independently of the world. But you still can have autonomy. And that starts with self awareness. And self awareness starts with dedicated time to actually go about improving your self awareness. And that is what this entire channel is for, honestly. So that is the first pillar I would want to talk about. Now, the second pillar that I've noted for myself here is feedback, genuine feedback. Now, feedback from whom? Feedback from other people in your life, feedback from your mentors, your teachers, your co-workers, your family members, etc. Of course, you can incorporate all of those feedbacks. But the feedback that I'm talking about here is feedback from your own self, feedback from your own self about your own life. You have to allocate dedicated time periodically to keep getting that feedback. Why do I say that? Picture this with me. This is January 18th today. It's almost the end of the year. It's almost the time when work is slightly on the lighter side. Your studies are also not too hectic. So you're coming up with your resolutions and your goals at this time of the year. And this self that comes up with goals is almost like an ideal self, because the world it is picturing is a world where you have been lazy so far because you have all the time in the world and still you haven't been reading all the books that Chetan has been talking about on the learning playground. And therefore, this ideal self comes up with massive goals, which the real self, which turns up in March, in February, in June, and July, there's almost no way that real self can catch up with those goals. And that is the feedback I want you to take into account. The feedback of the real self that is actually acting in the moment on the goals that the ideal self set up back in December and January. And that's the key. So take into account feedbacks from others. Of course, keep doing that. I don't think I need to even tell you that. But take into account your own personal feedback too. And there's also one more reason why you need to keep doing that. The first pillar that we talked about was that you have to allocate dedicated time to review your goals. Now, you need to dedicate some time to review your goals, and you also need to dedicate some time to keep considering whether what you are thinking about your life is what you are thinking, or is what is being put forward via all the different conditionings that you have been subjected to. For example, that voice in your head that keeps making you ashamed of things that you haven't achieved so far, that could actually not just be your voice. It could be the voice of your perfectionist mother, let's say, or that perfectionist father who always wanted you to keep doing things that even though you don't really want to do them, but you have to do them because this is what the society wants, etc., etc. Just a simple example. So I want you to incorporate your own honest feedback into your own life. So let's just say I want you to be more subjective about your life. Be more subjective about your own life, your own goals that you're chasing. And at the same time, paradoxically, be more objective about your own thoughts. Be more objective about your attachment to your thoughts. And that is the key. Now, let's move on to the third pillar then. The third pillar is actually something which is almost the backbone of my entire New Year's resolutions course, and that is a review. Always, before you sit down and come up with goals for yourself, come up with new tasks that you have to do, make sure that you review your previous year, your previous cycle. Because everything that we've been talking about so far, when I talk about having dedicated time to review your goals, having dedicated time to get feedback into account, both of these things should be done periodically, not just once a year, but periodically. And similarly, this review that I'm talking about is also supposed to be done periodically. And how do you go about performing your review? We live in the digital age. Just open up a Google Doc, open up your Photos apps, open up your messages, your WhatsApps, your Google Drive, your Instagram, and just review the entire time period that you want to review. And once you do that, I can honestly tell you a lot of people who are into this habit will swear by this, because some conversations that you have when you're doing your review are almost conversations that you always wanted to have, but you've been suppressing almost unconsciously. For example, for me, I remember this particular incident when I was reviewing my 2023. So this was almost a year back. I sat down and I was reviewing my 2023. And one of the things that popped up for me was I did not take even a single solo trip throughout 2023. And it was not because I wanted to but could not. I just did not. Because I had not written it down, I had not talked about it to anyone else also. I had not put it down in paper that I want to take more solo trips. And that stuck me. And when I was coming up with goals for 2024, one of the things I wanted to take off was to take at least one solo trip this year. And it happened in February itself that the moment presented itself, and I ended up doing that. So that is the key that I wanted to talk to you about. If you review your previous year, if you review the previous cycle that you now want to build on in the new cycle, there are a host of different methods to do that. I personally used to do it on a Google Doc. From this year onwards, I'm actually doing a full-fledged retro of my life. I'm doing a full-fledged retro with my wife for our relationships. I'm doing that for all the work that I'm doing on the learning playground. I'm doing that for all the work I'm doing throughout my life almost. And teaching you how to do a retro is actually the biggest backbone of the New Year's resolutions course. I use a tool called Figma to do that, and it's an exhaustive process, but it is a process that I would definitely recommend, because if you actually want to incorporate some practices in your life to make this year the best year of your life, doing a regular periodic retro will take care of almost everything that you want to be doing, but you may be suppressing for a host of different reasons. I can give you one more example. Just very recently, when I was doing a retro with my wife, we just sat down and it was the first time we were actually doing it. We are in a very open and communicative relationship. So we talk a lot with each other, of course. But the communication that happened while we were doing that retro, while we were especially filling up the griefs column of our retro, it brought up conversations that were uncomfortable, but it brought up conversations that we really wanted to have. And I didn't even know it was possible, but we ended up having a much more stronger bond by the end of the retro. So that is the power of doing a regular periodic retro. And if anyone was to ask me what are the key pillars around which you can build a complete year of your life, I will definitely include retro in them. And when I talk about something to definitely include, the fourth pillar that I would talk about has got nothing to do with the past, has got nothing to do with the future, but everything to do with what you have already accomplished. And that is, you're supposed to count your wins. You're supposed to celebrate everything that you've done. Because whenever we are coming up with resolutions for the new year, it's almost like we are focusing on the future and we're focusing on what we want to achieve. And it's very easy to forget all the growth that you've actually achieved for yourself already. And therefore, if you are in the process of setting up resolutions for yourself in the new year, go ahead and do all the different tips and tools and practices that YouTubers and self improvement gurus and spiritual gurus will teach you. Do all of them to your heart's contentment, to everything that I teach in my New Age resolutions course too. But one thing that you should not miss out on is to celebrate your wins, is to celebrate, count and celebrate and note down and appreciate all the growth that you have seen in the previous year or in all the years where you have failed to appreciate the steps you have taken forward. This is a crucial aspect also of the course that I talk about. So those are the four pillars I wanted to give you actually. And I started out on the learning playground with a complete spiritual growth angle to all the content that I would put out. And therefore, whenever I'm talking about New Year's resolutions, whenever I'm talking about growth, it's a bit of a tongue twister, is it? New Year's resolutions, New Year's resolutions. Whenever I'm talking about New Year's resolutions, I'm always hit by this part of my psyche which pinches me and says, "Is this really spiritual? Isn't spirituality supposed to mean that you go with the flow? Isn't that the highest peak of spirituality where you are in the here and now and you're right in the action, but you're not looking forward to the future? You're only doing what is supposed to be done in the present moment. And isn't setting goals for the future sort of a contradiction?" And I actually tried to live my life that way for quite a number of years, honestly, until I realized that I was not being true to myself. Like, very honestly, if I was to be asked What is spirituality? I would say the first part would be to unlearn your attachment to your current thinking. So don't be too focused on proving to yourself that whatever you're thinking is true. But then the very next thing would be to actually be very honest with yourself and to do and to act out of your highest truths. And what I realized in my own life was that this is a cycle that everyone goes through, in the sense that we all have phases of being and becoming. We all have phases of just being, not doing anything. So going with the flow, which is always followed by a cycle of becoming. So wanting to create something, wanting to do something, wanting to bring out something in the world or do something with your life. And this, for a lot of people who are not more self aware, the becoming aspect takes a hold of their psyche from a very low ego, poor little me ego point of view. That's not the becoming I'm talking about. The becoming I'm talking about is after you have achieved a certain level of self awareness, so that you know that what you're trying to achieve is not for your egoistical goals, but for something which is actually calling you out from the bottom of your heart. And you cannot put that calling down. And therefore, I feel right now, if you are coming up with New Year's resolutions, it's not that coming up with goals in and of itself is non-spiritual, is non-dual in some sense. I feel coming up with resolutions is a good thing, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of goals, a lot of resolutions that we come up with are not really our own goals, are not really our own resolutions. And that is the key. The real invitation from my side would be, as a self improvement and a spiritual growth YouTuber, I will tell you, come up with resolutions, come up with goals for yourself, but make sure that they are your own goals. Make sure that they are goals that actually resonate with the deepest, highest part of your psyche. And if you're doing that, I don't think you have to listen to anyone else whether what you're doing is spiritual or not. If you are being honest to yourself, if your aim is to grow higher in your level of self awareness, in your level of wisdom, in your level of acting intelligently, I think you are being as spiritual as you can be. So there is no shame to be associated with coming up with resolutions for yourself. I hope I was making that point clear. So that's about it. That is all I wanted to talk about. In fact, in 2024, because I'm not going to be recording any more videos in 2024, I hope you get to check out the course. It's available in the description of this video, and it's available all over my social media, my website, my YouTube channel, etc. Make sure you go ahead and check out the course. If you're interested, buy the course and actually just run with it, because the principles that I'm talking about are not just to be applied in your life around New Year's, but they're supposed to be applied in your life throughout the life. And one single piece of advice which actually underlies the entire philosophy that we used to design this course, myself and Rocco Jamin, the exact principle that we used was live your life by design, not by default. Living your life by default is almost something which all of us are doing. Even people in spiritual circles, they do not realize, but a lot of them are following spirituality which has been handed down to them. So there's nothing wrong with it, but what we are looking for is a better way to go about our life. And therefore, what we termed the course was New Year's resolutions, a better way, not the best way, not the good way. We want to have better ways. And therefore, this is a course that we'll build on. And 2025 might be about that for myself and Rocco. We might come up with better ways to come up with spirituality, unlearning, living your life with eyes wide open, etc., etc. So there's a host of very beautiful, very powerful, potent content coming up on the Unlearning Playground in the coming year. So if you're not a subscriber of the channel, make sure you subscribe. If you have not shared this channel and these videos with your friends and family, make sure you do that, because this year, this time of the year is, I feel, the most powerful time for people to actually change their lives. So act as a catalyst in your community and help them change for the better. Help them see the better side of the internet. So that's it. You good people of the internet. I wish you goodbye. I wish you a very happy new year coming forward, and I'll see you in 2025 soon again. Until next time, peace out. How do I turn this thing off? There. Yep.